Welcome back, everyone. It is the Hoopball Fantasy Basketball Pregame Show. We are live here on Thursday, March 18th. It's March Madness's first day today, and we're going to get y'all through the 6 NBA games on the night, get your lineup set in and out just like that. I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, William. How are you doing, man? Long time no see.
I'm doing great, Alan. Great to be back with you. Talk some basketball, a little fantasy, even a little, DFS if you want to take some notes from that. So.
Oh, absolutely, man. we should hit all of those. And this is honestly going to be an interesting night for DFS. A lot of guys are out. One game in particular we're going to jump to, and there's injuries all over the place.
Yeah.
Although, but if y'all are new here, drop a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel for more fantasy basketball based content like this. And we'll just start with the first game on the night, the Utah Jazz visiting the Washington Wizards. William, lead us in.
On the Washington side, let me bring up the injury report. We have injured Raul Neto is questionable. Ish Smith is out. Mo Wagner is available. Russ Westbrook is available, surprisingly. But, not too much news. You just need to check on Neto. A lot of people may be using him in deeper leagues for assist. On the fantasy side of things, obviously you have Russell Westbrook having an amazing fantasy year. His field goal percentage always kills you, but he's putting up, points, rebounds, and assists every game. Brad Beal averaging 32, 5, and 4. Just incredible. That's why he was the all-star starter. The big news for me for Washington is Rui Hachimura. He has been playing amazing lately. His last 3 games, he's been getting the minutes. It's big minutes. And when he gets the minutes, he's productive. He's had over 35 minutes the last 3 games and almost averaging 23 points and 10 rebounds. So it looks like that he's finally should stick in the rotation. I know they've been tinkering with the lineup a lot with whether it's Denny, whether it's Garrison, Troy Brown is not playing. It seems like they've just been, trying things out. But I think Rui is going to stick, and he should be owned in just about every league. But, if he's not, obviously he's someone you can look at and pick it up. And I, keep an eye on Denny, but he's just not ready yet for fantasy. Another revelation is Alex Len. The center position in Washington is always sketchy, but his last game, right? They need help. They need Thomas Bryant. But Alex Len last game, he had 13 points, 12 rebounds. That's obviously very useful in fantasy. They have sat Mo Wagner out the last 3 games, just DNPs pretty much. And so with the 2 centers, Robin Lopez and Alex Len, there becomes a little more use between the 2 centers. Still not going to be great, but, they can put up some production for you. That's pretty much all I have for the Wizards side of things.
Yeah, I'm glad they touched on Rui. He was the one I was going to highlight. Is just playing better overall recently. Like, there's that story that came out about how Russell Westbrook in the locker room went up to all the Wizards and asked, like, what's your role? Like, what do you do here? Not like in like a questioning them in what's wrong with you kind of way. More just like trying to get them to buy in and just like all try and improve in areas that they're weak in. And Rui identified his defense being an area that he needs to work on a lot, and he's focused on that recently. You're seeing it happen for him a little bit statistically. He's averaging about a steal per game over his last month, and improving in those categories like the threes and the defensive stats, where Rui's been sort of a 0 so far in his career. That's his path to really getting into real helpful 9-category league fantasy value. So other than him, yeah, I'm not trusting Alex Len. I mean, he put up he put up numbers, but I mean, come on, man, this is Alex Len. Like, this is Robin Lopez. These guys they've had their time. I'm gonna move on over to the next game. Over to the next team here. They're going up against Utah on the road here. The Jazz have only one guy on the injury report, and that is Mike Conley. He's just resting, just general injury management stuff. Which, as we all know, when Conley sits, Joe Ingles jumps into a bigger role. He is a great facilitator, plays some point forward on this team, and he's a great streaming, an interesting DFS option tonight. I'm sure he'll be. William, you're more attuned with that world, so tell me if I'm off base with that. But I feel like he'd be a good play tonight for the right price, right?
Ingles, yes, definitely. He's going to fill in that slot. Last year, it was night and day how he was playing when Conley was out, So I think you definitely could count on him. I think it also gives Clarkson a boost, too, a lot of times you don't really feel that comfortable playing Clarkson, and I think with Conley out, it puts your mind at ease a little bit more.
Yeah, and so like Ingles, I mean, it's been the same situation for him this season. Although I must say, even when Conley's playing of late, Ingles has been just good. Mm-hmm. Like he's been a top 100 player over his last month. Most of those games playing alongside Mike Conley. So he's a guy that I like having on your roster in 12-team settings. Big boosts for games like these, but just generally he's been chipping in across the board, coming off the bench with the threes and the assists. He's a nice guy to keep tabs on. But yeah, that's kind of it I've got for Utah.
Yeah.
So take us away. The next game on the night. I know y'all probably gonna be watching some college basketball tonight. I'm a Hawks fan, so I'm going to be glued to this game here. The the Thunder visiting the Hawks. William, what we got on the Thunder side?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, you're gonna let me do the Thunder on this one, right?
I mean, you said you wanted the away teams, but right. We'll go back and forth here. I mean, because there's a lot to talk.
Right? No. You got to have your team, the Hawks. So for the OKC, out. We still have Darius Bazley. He's been out the last few games. Lou Dort is questionable. George Hill is still out. Teo Maledon is questionable. So keep an eye on breaking news, in the next 45 minutes, and we might get some alerts there. On the OKC side, obviously you have Shea, incredible, leading the team, no question, almost an all-star this year. And there was Horford was not on the injury report.
Yeah, he's playing.
So that's big news for you guys like Pokusevski, Moses Brown, and Isaiah Roby. That brings their value down just a tad, each, and it could bring Moses Brown value down a lot. So we're just gonna have to see how that plays out. But because Moses Brown last game, he had 20 points and 16 rebounds. Everybody in the fantasy land just wants Horford to get out of OKC so they can use him because he's putting up huge numbers, has that potential to keep putting up huge numbers. And same for Isaiah Roby. Before Moses Brown, everyone thought when Horford's out of here, Roby's going to be the fantasy monster that we're all looking for. But he's been very valuable in category leagues regardless. I think Poku and Moses Brown are going to take the biggest hit. But Horford still will continue to sit out games. But for this matchup, with Horford in, that's going to be, you're probably not going to want to start Poku or Moses Brown if you have another option. That's pretty much all.
I mean, so that's going to be, it's interesting, right? Because they're the two hottest names in fantasy basketball right now. It's Moses Brown and Alexei Pokusevski. And we expect Poku to still start because Bazley is out. But it's going to be interesting to see now how the rotation with Horford, Moses Brown, and Isaiah Roby is going to be organized. When he's playing with all three of them out there. Moses Brown has obviously earned himself some rotation minutes, and he's got this raw rookie Mitchell Robinson-like sort of game to him. He's 7'2", 7'4" wingspan, blocks everything, fouls out pretty quickly. That's just comes with the territory. But he's got a lot of talent, and I think it's really, it'll be interesting to see who between he and Roby get that first crack at center. Maybe Roby plays power forward behind Pokusevski tonight. All to say, Clint Capella was ruled in for this game. He's been out for a couple with the heel issue, but he's playing tonight. That's going to be real tough for Moses Brown to match up with him. On the flip side, though, Nathan Knight's who's been, we'll touch on him in a sec. Going up against him might not be as bad. Size wise, Moses can, I think, compete. Knight's kind of built like a tank. He's not that tall, but he is. He does have some physicality to him. I'll be fascinated to see just the minute distribution at center tonight. I think if you have Moses Brown on your team, I mean, you're obviously throwing him out there in a head-to-head league or something like that. But if you're in like a games-capped, like Roto 9-category league format, I'll take a little bit of pause with this Hawks matchup where they've got size with Capella and Collins and Nathan Knight off the bench. And, Pokusevski is still just an interesting guy to hold on to as long as Bazley's out, just because the potential is sky high. He's going to continue to start. In the next few games for Oklahoma City, the front lines aren't all that imposing. After this one, you got the Houston Rockets, who have Christian Wood on the minutes limit, and Jayshawn Tate at the 4. They have Minnesota. All their power forwards are they're all built like Poku. He's got some favorable matchups coming up. So I'm certainly interested to see his production for those.
So you did hear that Poku is starting over Isaiah Roby? or
You know,
have they announced that yet?
I actually don't think they've announced that yet. I might have gone
Okay.
a little too. Yeah, it's important to make that note. In fact, we actually got an injury update. Lou Dort has been ruled in for this game. He will play, as will Teo Maledon, and Svi Mikhailuk will make his Thunder debut tonight too. So a lot of different names getting thrown out there. I guess you're right. I don't know what the starting lineup is officially, but I figure Poku is going to play north of 25 minutes one way or the other.
Yeah, I agree.
But it will be interesting to see now that the Thunder have most of their rotation guys back, how that's going to develop. Because Dort in particular has been out for the entire Moses Brown, Alexei Pokushevsky revolution. So we'll keep your eye on all of that. The Thunder are a big grab bag of mystery right now,
especially with Svi too. That's going to be interesting how they use him. They didn't really need anyone. They just needed Diallo out so they could play the young guys, but they brought in Svi in. So we're going to see if he's going to stick with the team and get minutes too.
And he is interesting in that I think he fills a niche on this team as just like being their best 3-point shooter. I think he can be a reliable option there if the Thunder feel that they need a more consistent threat from the outside. So we'll see how many minutes he gets tonight as well, and whose role he cuts into, if any. So that's the Thunder side of things. We'll go on to the Hawks, who, like I mentioned at the top, Clint Capella will play tonight after missing some time with that left heel issue. Rookie Onyeka Okongwu is also available tonight, but we also got word from Nate McMillan pre-game that Nathan Knight, the undrafted rookie out of Williams and St. Mary's, he's going to play over Okongwu going forward. He has locked down the backup center role, and that's a really interesting development. And I gotta say, I love watching Nathan Knight play. He attacks the rim like it insulted his mom. Like he just does not like he has no fear at all, and he is just a really just high energy and honestly very talented player to have gone undrafted. Unseating Okongwu, 6th pick in the draft, is an interesting development, and now it's just worth keeping in mind if Capella ever sits, Nathan Knight's a pretty interesting streaming option to look at. But as of now, if you picked him up, thought you could maybe ride this wave, it's pretty much over. You can send Nathan Knight back to the wire. Really, the only thing now that we're waiting for on the Hawks side is for DeAndre Hunter to finally make it back from his left knee surgery. There was talks about it possibly being today, but that didn't happen. So now we're just going to wait and see. Probably maybe a game or two once he comes back. That will probably create some questions about Kevin Huerter's role going forward, who's been starting for a while. He's been a productive fantasy player. And the Hawks are about to get to a point where they have Hunter, Reddish, Bogdanovich, and Huerter all healthy. It'll be interesting to see who are the odd guys out in that equation. And for what it's worth, I don't think Bogdanovich should be on any fantasy teams. I just, the fantasy game, he's talented. He's talented. I like watching him play, but the stats aren't going to come easily to him. I mean, would you disagree with that, or do you, have a bogey take that I don't?
No, I just know, he was so highly touted, to be acquired. Multiple teams would want them, showed his potential in Sacramento, and it's just too crowded in Atlanta, like you said. Mm-hmm. But, that should, when everyone's healthy, it should, contribute to winning, and that's what the team cares about. We as fans just care about the fantasy side, but, I'm sure as long as, they're getting W's, no one will be complaining too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. It's just that it really creates questions for Kevin Huerter the most, who was the odd guy out in that offseason. Once Bogey came in, everyone was just like, well, Bogdanovich will start, obviously, and what happens to Kevin Huerter? And Huerter's been as consistent as any Hawks player this season. So
he has.
So not real much to watch. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was like, Gallinari's been playing great, the last few games too. How you feel about him?
I mean, he's. I think honestly, Nate McMillan has unlocked something in him that Lloyd Pierce just wasn't able to. I think it's a mix of both him kind of regaining his footing after missing most of the year with that ankle issue to start off. New environment, learning just learning the plays, learning how to play with Trae Young. But it's clicking for him right now. And even though Capella's back, and that means that Gallo will head back to the bench, I think he's still going to play a pretty decent size role there. And as long as he's scoring efficiently, he has some value in 9 category leagues, from the free throw percentage to threes, a little bit of rebounds. Like, it's very borderline, but helpful.
Totally agree.
So on to the next game, man. Take it away.
Yeah, on to the next game. We have the Orlando Magic at the New York Knicks. For Orlando side, Cole Anthony is still out. Michael
Mhm.
Carter Williams is out, and James Ennis is out, and it keeps going. Evan Fournier is questionable, so stay tuned. To the latest
He
breaking
actually
news.
just got ruled in for this game.
Ruled in. Oh, thank goodness, because
As
they needed him.
has Fournier's in. Aaron Gordon will also start, and Aaron Ross will try to play. That came in like about
Try to play.
Yeah, that was the word on him. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great news that Fournier is in. I saw Aaron Gordon had been ruled in, so that's great because I mean, other other than Vucevic, it was looking very questionable. So it's gonna be interesting with Aaron Gordon. You just to see how many minutes he gets in this game. I'm sure he will be limited. He's been out for quite some time, and with all their point guards, especially injured, a guy's name has been getting a couple minutes. We could see how he does is Chasson Randall. Um, he's really just if you're in a 20-team league or something, you want to keep your eye out on him. But who knows? He could come out of nowhere like Moses Brown and start balling. But he's just a guy that's going to get those minutes because they have no one else, and it's just everyone's filling a mishmash role for Orlando until they all get healthy again. But it's good news that Fournier and Aaron Gordon are back, but not much going on the Orlando side today.
Yeah, I mean, Randall is listed as the starter at point guard, and Gordon and Aminu are starting at the forwards. I would think that Aaron Gordon plays the majority of point guard in this game, as we've seen a lot of since Markelle Fultz went down. Depending on how much he plays.
First game back, throw him out there.
I mean, it's honestly, it might be the thing he does best on offense is just his ability to create for others. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many minutes he gets out there. And if not, it'll be a mix of him and probably Evan Fournier will also get involved. But yeah, I think we covered all the big points there.
Yeah.
The Knicks side of things is a lot sadder. We got
sadder than the Magic. Wow.
Yeah, well, only because I was so hyped about starter Emmanuel Quickley, man, and unfortunately, Quickley suffered an ankle injury in his first game as a starter last time out. He's out for this game. Derrick Rose is out with health and safety protocols, and Elfrid Payton is out with his hamstring issue. So the Knicks are down their three best point guards. Frank Ntilikina is probably going to get the start. Alec Burks is going to play a big role off the bench as their six-man scorer / point guard type. Of those guys, Alec Burks is the guy that I'm looking at to produce. I'm not that interested in Ntilikina. He just doesn't have it from a fantasy basketball perspective. And he could always surprise and help you out with steals and assists if he has a good night. But Alec Burks just seems like a safer bet to get you good points, threes, and assists. He's been scoring a decent amount recently with Rose and Payton out. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I picked up Quickley when I heard that he was going to get the starter's job for, maybe 2-3 games. I was like, oh yeah, this will be great. We'll just ride this. Maybe he can lock down the job long-term, which I'm sure all Knicks fans want. But now all three of them are out. They'll probably all come back around the same time. And then it'll be a question mark about what Tibbs decides to do going forward. Does he go back to Payton? Does he roll with, homie for life, Derrick Rose? Does he put him out there at the starting point guard spot? It's probably not going to be Quickley. Even when those two are back, I don't think Quickley plays enough to have fantasy value. So yeah, that's it on the Knicks side. We're still waiting on Mitchell Robinson. His return is imminent. I'm not sure if it's next week or the week after, but he'll be coming back soon. And that will create some questions for Nerlens Noel at that point. But for the time being, he's still worth rostering in all category leagues and utilizing his defensive stats and efficiency until that time comes.
I'd like to also say, kind of like Burks, Reggie Bullock, he's been getting big minutes lately. Mm-hmm. In their game against the Nets, he played 42 minutes, and he had 19 points, 6 boards. So that he's looking pretty good out there. Tibbs loves his veterans. So I can see, Burks and Bullock, they're going to have the same type of production, in my opinion, especially with everyone out. And even Taj Gibson, he's been getting some minutes. You want him to give Noel, all the minutes he can handle, but he's throwing Taj Gibson in there. He'll grab some boards and just mess things up for everyone, basically. So.
Man is Tom Thibodeau's security blanket. Is Taj Gibson? Yep. If Tibbs was getting married tomorrow, he'd be the best man at his wedding. He can't quit him.
Would. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So what about the next game we've got? By the way, y'all, you're just tuning in. We covered the big Moses Brown story, but you can always rewatch that on the replay. Still got some interesting stuff ahead. Please drop a like and subscribe to the video if you want to hear any more about that kind of stuff going forward.
That's right. Next game, we have Minnesota at Phoenix. I'm going to cover the Minnesota side. Malik Beasley is still out with suspension, obviously. Mm-hmm. Jared Culver is doubtful. Jordan McLaughlin, backup point guard, is out. D'Angelo Russell is still out also. On the Minnesota side, obviously, you have Karl Anthony Towns. I think last time we talked, we were like, he's been kind of rusty from, COVID and sitting out. And he's back on track, back to normal Karl Anthony Towns. And that's great to see. The fans are, extremely supportive of him, especially all he's gone through. So good to see him back out there. Anthony Edwards is a guy, if you're just a casual listener, you've heard Anthony Edwards, he shouldn't have been first pick, He has been playing out of his mind lately. He's a guy that must be rostered. All these injuries have opened a pathway for him to, play like he did in college and, just have the keys to the vehicle. What's that saying? Keys to the wheel? What? Anyway,
he's got keys. He's got like that janitor like big ring with all the keys on it.
Got the keys. Ricky Rubio, he's in a fantasy headache for most of the season. Most of the last few seasons. But last game he had 19 points and 12 rebounds, 12 assists. So he's a guy you can look at if you need a streamer spot start. Because like we said, with McLaughlin out, he's really the only point guard there. And then another young guy that's been stepping up is Jalen Noel. He's been filling in Malik Beasley's spot and showing great potential. And, Beasley is, a step above him, but he's filling in that role really nicely. And I've added him in a couple of 12-team leagues when you need a spot start. He's going to put you up some points and a couple of little other, categories. He's a guy to keep your eye out on. I'm sure he wished he was playing a little bit better and make Beasley scared he's going to lose his job, but I think Beasley is safe for now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm glad that you touched on him towards the end because he was the big. I also had him in a spot where I really need to start streaming some points. And Noel has, he stepped into some shots. He's taken about 10 per game since Beasley's suspension. And he's been a top 80 guy in 9 category leagues in that time too. It's been mostly. It's on, the points are helpful. He's hitting about 2.5 threes per game, and he's shooting 50% from the floor. That bit's probably unsustainable. But it's worth noting that he's got the green light in the backup unit, especially with Jordan McLaughlin out. He's really kind of operating as the backup point guard, only in that he brings the ball off the floor. He's the primary ball handler with those bench units. It's led to some bump in assists, but for the most part, it just means that Noel can just ISO and get himself to the bucket or maybe try and create some space for a shot on his own. So the offense he's got plenty of opportunities and he's got 5 games left, including tonight's, without Beasley. So if you need a guy that you can stream reliably, that he's going to get minutes. It's just mostly about the shot falling. I don't mind Jalen Noel as a speculative points and 3 streamer in your 12-team 9 category leagues. On the Phoenix side, I don't even have notes on the Suns side. I didn't really put any together because they're just, this is a team that we really kind of understand for the most part. They have a lot of the same guys just kind of doing their same things. Chris Paul continues to run this team the way that it's just designed around him. DeAndre Ayton continues to be a little underwhelming. And they just made a trade for Torrey Craig in Milwaukee. I never actually saw who they sent out in that deal. Did
just
you
catch cash considerations?
Yeah. I like Torrey Craig, man. I think he's
I do too.
That. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's going to have any fantasy impact, but he's an interesting wing who can defend pretty well. He'll probably get some minutes here and there. But yeah, man, do you have anything on Phoenix? Because I'm out. There's nothing really I'm watching for them.
That's what I was going to mention, Torrey Craig, it'll be interesting to see him get some minutes because, like I said, we both like him. Denver could use him right now. They gave him up in the offseason, didn't want to pay him. I think Milwaukee could have used him, but, he is where he is now. For the injury report for Phoenix, Cam Johnson is still out and Abdel Nader is questionable. Nader has been playing pretty decent this year out of nowhere, and I think Craig could possibly take his minutes and he'll be out of the rotation. Possibly Sarge, I think Dario Sarge has been playing pretty well lately.
Those backup center lineups with him have been working.
Backup center, yeah, he's kind of taking Frank the Tank's minutes. We had fun with Frank the Tank last time we were on. But Cameron Payne is also a guy, you can look at, put up some points, a couple assists. But yeah, you pretty much nailed Phoenix.
So what we got on the Pelicans Blazers side, the rematch after that shootout last game.
Pelicans Blazers. For the Pelicans, we have only JJ Redick is on the injury report right now. So that does affect some people a little bit, like Nickeil Alexander Walker. He scored 20 points this last game. He's been a roller coaster, but he also has that potential to score 20 points out of the blue. Jackson Hayes had been playing really well. His last 3 games were really good, but then his last game was a complete dud with 4 points. So they have a lot of guys other than their main 3 that have potential, but they can disappoint you very much. So like Eric Bledsoe, he had a 0-point game the other night also. But Zion is just incredible, a beast. He's truly unlocked his potential since a couple weeks before the All-Star game. Brandon Ingram as well, playing incredible, just like he did last year. And Lonzo Ball, I'm not a fan of Lonzo Ball. It was a report today that his dad was like, I hope he gets traded. He hates New Orleans. That's probably completely false, but you know how his dad is. But he had 17 assists last game. So, I mean, he's playing really well this season for what he does. He's obviously not going to score 20 points a game. Like, I think the league is kind of, in love with point guards that score and assist, but he's playing pretty well. They want Zion to have the ball. He can get Zion the ball. If he keeps putting up assists like that, his value just continues to go through the roof. And other than that, Steven Adams is not playing too great, but obviously he's just a big man fill-in right now.
The one thing I'm curious about New Orleans going forward is just, and that you touched on all the main things, and it'll be interesting to see if they make any moves at the deadline, but the direction of this team, I feel like there should be a larger emphasis on running the offense through Zion Williamson. It seems to be a 1A, 1B thing going on with Brandon Ingram. Like the shot distribution on the season as a whole, Ingram, he leads the team in shot attempts. He's about 17.5 per game to Zion's, I think it was 15 or something like that. Where, I'm curious if there's going to be more of a shift with the more the Zion gets comfortable with the NBA pace and sort of continues to modify his game, work a little bit more as a just, I don't know. Like, do you feel that Zion should be leading this team in shot attempts, just now, going forward? Because I feel that that's what the franchise should be focused on right now, instead of kind of giving Ingram this top tier offensive option role.
I think, I've heard that from a lot of people. Even Bill Simmons was talking about that. I slightly agree, but I think Brandon Ingram is really good. So he shouldn't be taking considerably more than Zion, but I think it should at least come down to more of an even level. Because I think they need them both, and there's enough, possessions to go around for them both, because they're really the main 2 scorers on the team. But I think Ingram thinks it's his team. Zion is I think he's so young right now. He's not in a position where he's gonna say, "Give me the ball" and move out of the way. But I think with age and time that will come. But yeah, I think it should be more even split between the 2. And I think they Stan Van Gundy, if anyone's going to tell them that, he can tell them that, because he relates well with the players. He might not be the best X's and O's coach, but I think he can talk to them and keep working on them. But yeah, I think the trade deadline will really help this team see what they do, and I think their whole strategy could change right after that.
It'll be interesting to see how they develop that going forward. On the Blazers side of things, the only big note on the injury report, CJ McCollum obviously came back in his last game after missing over a month. Maybe a month and a half with that foot issue. Harry Giles, who's also been out for the Blazers' last 13 games or so, he is back after nursing that left calf issue. And the only real note is that, and this was already coming, it was a matter of time once Yusuf Nurkic came back. But now that Giles is back, if he goes back to that 15-minute true backup center role, I'm afraid it might be the end of the road for backup center Robert Covington, who has been awesome ever since Giles has been out. He had upped his blocks per game to 2.3. His efficiency came up. His rebounds came up. He was doing some really just terrific things for your fantasy teams. been a top 20 player in those 13 games that Giles missed. And you can see it too. You can watch the last game that Giles played, look at Robert Covington's box scores, and just go through those 13 games. It was like 0 blocks to 1 here and there to 2, 3, 5, 4, like just down the road, multiple blocks per game. I don't know if that's going to stay, if it's going to continue, if he's primarily playing at the 4 and not getting those minutes at center. So I'm watching that, I suppose, to see if Giles goes back to that role, if the Blazers continue to roll with Covington in that capacity. But yeah, the Blazers are pretty straightforward. It's just the Dame Lillard. It's the Damian Lillard show every night. I would love it if he, got involved in the MVP discussion and actually, people really got behind him as an MVP candidate, because what he's done with the roster that he's had this year has been nothing short of incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see CJ. He had 10 points, 4 rebounds his first game back, like you said. But I think it's going to, Melo has been a top 30 9-cat player the last 2 weeks. He's obviously going to drop down tremendously with that. Same for Gary Trent, same for Derrick Jones Jr. So it slightly hurts everyone else, but it'll be great to see CJ McCollum and his stats and production ramp up game by game to where he gets back to his normal self. So, that's the main thing with Portland. And Rocco, I mean, I can't ever have him on my team. I just don't trust him. So, and he's just proven it this year that,
he's been good recently, though. He's been really good.
Right.
Top 20 player in 9 category leagues for the last 13 or 14 games. He's slow starter, that Robert Covington. But
slow starter, yeah. Hopefully he doesn't drop too far down with Giles back.
I'm hoping not. And when Nurkic comes back, that'll make things all the more interesting. But especially because Enes Kanter's definitely getting backup center minutes at that point.
They love Kanter in Portland.
and look, he's been good. To his credit, he's been good this year. And again, like you mentioned, Gary Trent Jr. is probably done as a fantasy option. Derrick Jones Jr. is probably done as a fantasy option now that McCollum's ramping back up, and that will only continue once Nurkic is back in the fold.
Yep, totally agree.
So, last game on the night, Charlotte Hornets visiting the Los Angeles Lakers. What do we got here?
And I don't see a injury report for the Hornets. Do you see one?
No, they don't have anyone.
Okay. Yep. So, for the Hornets side of things, LaMelo, Ball has just been incredible. Him and Tyrese Halliburton were probably neck and neck, or he was slightly above for Rookie of the Year. But with Halliburton's recent injuries, LaMelo has just taken off, and I think he's a clear lock to win Rookie of the Year now. Probably, and I'm in North Carolina, so I love the Hornets. It's good to finally have some hope. And we're in the playoff contention. Things are looking up for the Hornets right now. We still need some help. We still need.
Aren't y'all 5th in the East right now?
Yeah.
That's
somehow.
Yeah, man. I mean, they are so fun to watch. But yeah, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, with our 4 point guards, it's working. But Gordon Hayward, obviously, he's been top 50 type category guy. Rozier, same. PJ Washington, a couple games back, he showed his potential. He had one of the best games of his career, and then the very next game completely fell off the earth with 3 points. So if he can remain consistent, hopefully that will come with time. That will really help this team out because, like I said, at center, it's a big hole for us, I believe. Cody Zeller, sometimes he can put up points, sometimes he can put up rebounds, but I don't think he's a player that any other team is scared of. And, they're not focusing in on him. So, that's something that we need to improve on. Devontae Graham also came back last game. Muddies the waters a little bit because Malik Monk was someone you could use. Now that's a little sketchy. It's gonna probably hurt Rozier a tiny bit also. We're crowded down there at the guard position. But it's good for real life basketball, but it's gonna hurt us a little bit in fantasy. But yeah, the main 2 guys are Melo and Gordon Hayward, and hopefully Rozier doesn't take too big of a hit. It's unfortunate for Miles Bridges. At times in his career, he's shown a lot of potential, but basically this season he's caught some assists from LaMelo Ball, and that's about it. I mean, I really expected more from him. He should be averaging a double-double in my opinion, or close to. But he's been having a lot of 0 and 2-point games.
Man, Miles Bridges is not in your favor. He is well off of those expectations.
Yes, he is. So hopefully that'll turn around eventually.
So the main thing that I'm watching is that point guard dynamic that you mentioned, because I think that Devontae Graham, I don't think that he's a fantasy option coming off the bench. And I think most people are like, unless because he's been playing 19 minutes per game in those 4 games that he's played, that's not enough. Obviously, I mean, he can get the threes and the assists, but that's it. And then there's going to be hits and misses. And honestly, it's a little worrying how that could cut into LaMelo's playing time. I mean, there was a blowout last game, so that affected the averages here. But the minutes are down for LaMelo. Everything's down across the board since Devontae came back, which is what you would expect. But he's well off from that top 30, 40 pace that he was playing out without Graham. And, I don't know if Graham's expected to play more minutes, if Borrego is going to try and find more lineups where he gets those 3 out there together, whether Rozier falls off in some capacity. It's just, I want to continue watching to see how the dynamic just works itself out, because I think LaMelo has got the most potential of, anyone on this team from a fantasy perspective. And by a large margin. And if he's only playing 27 minutes a night, that's less appealing as it wasn't 33 minutes a night when Graham was out. Do you feel that the Hornets are obviously they're going to be making a playoff push this year. They're developing for the future, but they're probably going to be in the playoff picture, and they need that center, like you mentioned. Do you feel that Devontae Graham is on the trade block now that LaMelo has emerged as the clear starter here?
I think, early in the season, I was like, we need to trade Rozier, but he's been playing it out of his mind, averaging over 20 points a game. So, it's tough. Devontae is expendable now because, he's a very streaky player, and, his field goal percentage has always been terrible. But Malik Monk was a guy we weren't even using. He was obviously tradable. He's got playing time, and he was showing how great he could be. But I think Devontae Graham and Malik Monk can be traded, but what will you get back for them? So in turn, that would make you maybe forced to trade Rozier to get a player. Like, I want to steal your guy, John Collins, who y'all do not appreciate, so he can come on down to Charlotte.
I appreciate him, William. You take that back. I appreciate John Collins, and I do not want oh, God.
We'll give you Miles Bridges and Devontae Graham for John Collins.
Miles Bridges putting up 2s and 0s earlier, like you were just talking about. Am I getting 20 and 10 Miles Bridges, or are you giving me the man? Next week's gonna suck for me. I just know it. I just have a bad feeling about the John Collins trade thing. I'm sure all of y'all, you don't care about the Hawks. You want John Collins traded for fantasy basketball purposes, and I hope that that doesn't happen, but it probably will. I don't know. That's where I'm at.
No, I do hope he stays with you guys. It's weird that y'all don't want to pay him, but what can you do?
Preaching to the choir, man. Well,
I didn't mean to make Alan so sad.
On that downer there. Go to our last team here, the Los Angeles Lakers, and I don't care. No, it's the Lakers are not an interesting fantasy team at the moment because we get the deal with them. Anthony Davis is still a few weeks away. They're taking it very carefully, as they should, with his hamstring issue. It's really just Markieff Morris and Kyle Kuzma jumping into that role. Marc Gasol's still out with health and safety protocols as well, which is a factor here. That's why Markieff has been playing more. But there's no fantasy options that you're looking at on the wire here. You just expect LeBron to continue shouldering the load. Dennis Schroeder being the second guy on offense, and Montrezl Harrell, I guess, being the biggest fantasy beneficiary of that. But there's just nothing. If you've heard us talk about the Lakers on one show since Anthony Davis's injury, you get the gist. There's nothing new to add to that front, unless you got something, Will.
Well, I do think Kuz, right when AD was out, it was like, okay, Kuz is the guy, but he kind of slumped down a little bit. But his last 3 games, basically since the All-Star game, he's been averaging like 20 and 7. And I think he's been really showing that potential and that we'd like to see. Hopefully it's not, advertising himself to be traded. But, he's been playing real well. And the last 2 games, Taylor Horton-Tucker has been averaging 17 points and 6 rebounds. And that kind of came out of nowhere He's a guy we've been looking to see. Will he do anything?
Well, he was replacing Caruso, who was out with concussion. I should have mentioned at the top that he's been ruled in for this game. So with Caruso back, that will be interesting to keep an eye on if he's perhaps taken minutes there. But look, Caruso's good in his own right too, and he's earned his job all on his own. But you're right, Horton Tucker. He always has our eye just because of that potential. But it'll be interesting to see if he's still in that rotation with Caruso back.
Right, because the last 2 games he's been averaging 27 minutes a game. So before that he was in the team. So with the minutes he's productive, and I think with a young guy like that, put him in there. I mean, while AD is out, run him. See what he's got. KCP is going to be KCP. Marquise Morris is going to be Marquise Morris. See what the young guy can do, and at worst, you could be displaying him for other teams, because I think the Lakers might still be looking for one piece. If the Nets are going to scare them, they might need one more piece. What do you think about that?
I mean, they're definitely going to be active in the buyout market because, they've been linked to Hassan Whiteside. There's some people saying Andre Drummond. I don't see how that happens. But, I feel like the Lakers would be better off continuing to develop Horton Tucker than trading him off for, because, how these LeBron teams are constructed. You shell out for tons of veterans. You get, which is great, guys that know their roles and know how to play with Bron. It's just that the franchises, they do have to think towards the future. They still have Anthony Davis. He's going to be the center of this team going forward. They need to find ways to build out the war chest at a certain point. But I mean, I don't know. When I talked to Jovan Bua a few weeks back, he was talking about how guys like Jared Dudley felt that Horton Tucker should be a starter next season. And it'll be fascinating if that happens, because at that point, I mean, talk about an exciting fantasy player on the Lakers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't be trying to shop him. If anything, I'm just going to continue to do what contenders do, and that's just work the buyout market and get guys that you would for free. Basically, I mean, you pay them, but you don't have to trade anyone out to acquire them. By the way, we got one last question. We got a question here. I saw that Adam answered Samuel's question earlier. Thanks, you guys. But we'll just it's been a quick show. We'll grab one more here towards the end from the worst.
Well, do you disagree with anything Adam said with the first question?
No, I don't. But like for those of you viewing, like the Samuel asked about whether or not he'd be trying to trade Towns for the right price. Which, look, I mean, he's had his struggles throughout the year. I think that you got to find someone in that first round range if you can, even though he hasn't been at that level. And then the rankings are absolutely exact for a 9-category league. Halliburton's clear and away at the top of that. Walker, when he plays, is probably better than LeVert too, who, Karras is great, but he has his holes in 9-cat with the percentages and the turnovers and all that. But for the worst here, should he sell high on Delon for Halliburton?
That's just like, for the worst here, yeah.
Anyway, this guy, I don't like him, but here's his question. Yeah, I would. I totally would if you could make that work. Halliburton, if we're talking about a 9-category league, then Halliburton, he's clearing away a better option. He was injured coming out of the All-Star break. He was on a minutes limit. I'm not sure if everyone, is attuned with that. Maybe the manager you're trying to acquire him from didn't pick that up. But especially with Bagley out, Halliburton's going to start the rest of the way. He's eventually going to get himself back up to 30 minutes. He's clearing away a better option than Delon, and a safer one at that.
Yeah, and I'll say, for the Pistons, you got to remember, they have Bay there. Saban Lee at point guard, who was playing well. Dennis Smith Jr., who was playing well. And they also have Killian Hayes, who's making his way back to the rotation coming soon. So look out for him. So there, with all those point guards there and the young guys, they just traded for Diallo. I think that would hurt DeLon's value. So Halliburton doesn't have all that competition. They're going to be clearing the way for him to play because Sacramento's not going anywhere. And Halliburton, like I said, he's easily the second best rookie in this draft class. So you're obviously going to play him more.
I'd argue that Halliburton has just been better than Delon, even when he's the unquestioned point guard. I mean, Delon Wright's been great, but just straight up, like all factors away. And you mentioned great ones. Killian Hayes is going to come back, and there's going to be questions about how those two work together. But Halliburton's safe. It's already better. So, man, go for it.
Yeah, great question.
So that's going to do it for us today, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Please drop a like, subscribe to the channel, follow William and I on Twitter. Our handles down below, and follow at Hoopball Fantasy on Twitter. That's at Hoopball Fantasy, all put together. The best place on the internet to get NBA breaking news with fantasy analysis attached. And yeah, man, that's going to be it for us. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy March Madness. If you guys got burned by Top Shot today, good luck tomorrow. And we will all check in with you guys on the next one.
Yep. Catch you next time.
See you, everyone.